Hey there. Tonight, we're diving deep beneath the Australian soil, where an ancient, mysterious civilization once thrived in a way most people would never have imagined. Picture this: miles below the surface, tucked into the earth like something out of a science fiction novel, an entire community existed, and not just for a few years or even decades, but for generations. They built entire cities underground, away from the harsh, unforgiving surface of the land. And why did they do it? To survive. Yes, but what drove them to make such a unique choice in one of the world's most isolated and inhospitable places? You probably won't survive this. Seriously. If you were to try and live in those conditions, your body would start revolting. But for these mysterious people of ancient Australia, underground living was more than just a survival tactic. It was a way of life, and tonight, you're going to learn all about it. With a story so strange, it might just change how you think about human adaptability. So, before we get started, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're genuinely into weird stuff like this. I'd love to know where you're watching from, so drop your location and the current time in the comments. Let's see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, sit back, get comfortable, and let's dive into tonight's strange discoveries together. When we think of ancient civilizations, we often imagine grand cities with towering structures, monumental temples, and bustling streets full of people going about their daily lives. But what if I told you that deep under the earth, hidden from the scorching sun and unforgiving winds of Australia's vast deserts, there once existed a people who not only survived but thrived beneath the surface? Now, you might be wondering, who were these people? And why in the world would anyone choose to live underground in such an extreme, isolated environment? The truth is, no one knows for sure, but the mystery is far more fascinating than any guess could be. Scholars are still debating the origins of these underground communities, some arguing that they were forced to live in the earth for protection from nomadic invaders, others suggesting that their decision was a deliberate one, driven by a unique relationship with the land. Picture yourself standing in the middle of the harsh Australian desert, the sun beating down with its unforgiving heat. To the untrained eye, this is a barren, lifeless land, unfit for any form of civilization. But to the underground dwellers, this environment, with its scorching days and freezing nights, held a secret, a treasure beneath the surface. Hidden from the brutal conditions above, they carved out spaces where life could continue without the dangers of the open world. Historians still argue whether these people were the first to build underground homes, or if they were influenced by other cultures. What we do know is that they were pioneers in making the most of an environment that, on the surface, seemed impossible to survive. They built entire cities deep beneath the earth, carving out subterranean chambers, tunnels, and halls where their community could live in safety. Their homes, for all intents and purposes, were more than just shelters. They were a way to cope with a world that was too hostile above ground. Now, as you imagine stepping into one of these underground cities, it's hard to picture exactly what it would look like. You'd think the air would be damp, the tunnels cold and dark, but that's not the case. These ancient builders were masters of their environment, carving out intricate subterranean homes that were surprisingly cozy and functional. They didn't just dig random holes. No, these underground spaces were carefully designed with purpose and ingenuity, using the natural terrain to create a sustainable habitat. The architecture was both practical and resourceful. The walls of these underground chambers were carved out of soft sandstone, a material that was both easy to dig through and durable enough to stand the test of time. Some rooms were designed for specific activities, like cooking or sleeping, while others were multifunctional. Imagine rooms where you could both rest and store your tools or garden supplies, all with the clever use of space. Historians aren't exactly sure how the builders of these cities learned to construct such advanced underground structures. Some believe that they had a deep knowledge of the land, handed down through generations, while others think that their designs were influenced by neighboring groups who also utilized subterranean dwellings. Regardless of the origins, what they created was impressive. They understood the flow of air in the tunnels, allowing them to craft ventilation systems that kept the spaces cool in summer and warm in winter. These underground homes weren't dark and oppressive. They were surprisingly well ventilated and comfortable. making them perfect for year-round living. One of the most interesting features of these underground cities was their use of natural water sources. Most of the communities were built near underground streams or springs, which provided them with a steady supply of fresh water. They didn't have to dig wells or rely on the erratic rainfall above. Instead, they tapped into the hidden water beneath the surface. These water sources allowed them to maintain a steady supply of water for drinking, cooking, and even irrigating crops in their subterranean gardens. Imagine how much smarter and more resourceful they were than we tend to think of ancient civilizations. Instead of battling the desert's extreme temperatures, they turned it to their advantage. They didn't just survive, they thrived in a place most people would consider uninhabitable. Now, let's take a walk through one of these underground dwellings. Picture yourself descending into the cool quiet of the earth. The moment you step inside, you notice the air is fresh, almost crisp, something you wouldn't expect when living beneath the ground. These people were far from living in dark, damp, cramped spaces. No, their homes were surprisingly well lit by natural shafts of sunlight and cleverly placed openings that let in just enough light. Even though they were buried beneath the earth, they found ways to make their homes feel alive and vibrant. You find yourself walking through chambers that might have been used for sleeping, or perhaps community gatherings. The walls are smooth, and every inch of the space is maximized for use. You notice faint carvings in the stone, markings that might have told stories or recorded important events. These weren't just places to sleep. They were homes that reflected the daily lives and rituals of the people who lived there. Everything had a purpose, from the fire pits used for warmth and cooking, to the water channels that kept the underground community thriving. But of course, life wasn't all cozy tunnels and community. Living underground meant that survival required constant effort. The people relied heavily on farming, growing crops that could thrive in the dim light of their subterranean world. Imagine rows of crops like grains, vegetables, and even fruit, all growing beneath the earth where sunlight barely touched. They used the natural temperature regulation of the earth to their advantage, keeping their crops cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Ingenious, right? Scholars still argue about how exactly they managed to cultivate food underground. Some believe they used innovative irrigation systems or carefully controlled environments that mimicked sunlight. Others think they might have relied more on trial and error, figuring out which crops grew best in low light, temperature-stable environments. Historians are also unsure about the kind of farming tools these underground people used. Were they making the most out of basic stone tools, or did they possess more advanced technology that's been lost over time? The lack of written records leaves us guessing, but one thing is certain: their agriculture was an essential part of their underground life, sustaining not just individuals, but entire communities. And let's not forget the animals. These underground cities weren't just farms. They were full-fledged societies. Some of the tunnels were used to house domesticated animals, such as goats or sheep. Imagine having to care for animals in a confined space, navigating through narrow passageways with your livestock in tow. Despite the cramped conditions, these people had found ways to make it work, allowing them to live self-sufficiently and in harmony with their underground surroundings. As you continue your exploration of these underground spaces, you start to realize that the true brilliance of these ancient civilizations wasn't just in their ability to build homes, but in how they adapted to and worked with their environment. The people who lived beneath the earth in Australia didn't just rely on the physical shelter of their underground homes. They also built complex social structures and systems that allowed them to thrive in isolation. Their underground communities weren't just a refuge from the harsh conditions above. They were intricate societies in their own right. Imagine being part of a community where every person had a role, and the social fabric was woven tightly around shared survival. The inhabitants likely had designated roles in the community: farmers tending to the underground gardens, water managers ensuring the vital supply of water was maintained, and builders who continued to expand and improve the intricate network of tunnels and chambers. It was a delicate balance, one that required cooperation and careful planning to maintain. One fascinating aspect of these underground civilizations is how they might have interacted with the outside world. While they were physically removed from the bustling life on the surface, They were far from isolated. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that the underground people engaged in trade with other communities, exchanging goods like food, pottery, and tools. However, this trade wasn't the simple transaction we might think of today. It wasn't just about trading for material goods. It was also about exchanging knowledge. The underground dwellers shared farming techniques, water management systems, and even cultural practices with neighboring tribes and settlements. Scholars still debate how much these underground people influenced other groups in Australia and beyond. Some believe that their agricultural innovations, such as growing crops in underground chambers, might have been adopted by other civilizations. Others suggest that their underground homes were simply a last resort, a desperate measure born from necessity, with little lasting influence on surrounding societies. Either way, it's clear that these people were far from the isolated, primitive society that many might expect. They were connected both to the earth beneath them and the people who lived above. But the underground civilization wasn't all work and survival. Just as in any society, these people likely found ways to create art, music, and culture, ways to express their emotions, their history, and their connection to the world around them. Though no written records have been found, it's not hard to imagine that these people expressed their creativity through carvings, paintings, or even music played in the soft glow of firelight. Perhaps they told stories around a communal fire, passed down from generation to generation, sharing the history of their people and their unique way of life beneath the earth. And then there's the spiritual side of their underground existence. Like many ancient societies, the people of the underground probably had spiritual or religious beliefs tied to their environment. The earth, with its mysterious depths, may have been seen as a sacred place, a source of protection and power. They might have worshipped the earth itself, believing that it provided them with the resources necessary for survival. Some scholars speculate that the underground dwellers viewed the earth not just as a shelter, but as a living entity with which they were deeply connected. This idea isn't as far-fetched as it seems. Throughout history, many cultures have believed in the sacredness of the earth, seeing it as a provider and protector. Even today, archaeologists are still uncovering artifacts that hint at the spiritual beliefs of these people. Stone carvings, ceremonial tools, and figurines suggest that they engaged in rituals, perhaps to honor the earth, their ancestors, or the natural forces that kept them alive. It's a poignant reminder that, while these people lived in a harsh and isolated world, they still found ways to connect to something greater than themselves. As you take in these thoughts, you can't help but be amazed at how much we've yet to learn about these underground people. They were more than just survivors. They were thinkers, innovators, and creators who managed to build a life in one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. Despite the challenges they faced, they found ways to make their underground homes not just livable, but thriving cultural hubs full of trade, art, and spirituality. Despite the disappearance of these underground civilizations, their legacy lives on in the form of the structures they left behind. The remnants of their cities, now silent and forgotten, are a testament to human creativity and adaptability. What's most fascinating is that even today, archaeologists continue to uncover new information about these mysterious people. Every new discovery adds another layer to the story, hinting at just how sophisticated their society was. The underground dwellings themselves are remarkably well preserved. Some of the rooms still contain ancient carvings, pottery, and tools that offer a glimpse into their daily lives. The fact that these underground cities have lasted for thousands of years, largely untouched by the elements, is a testament to the incredible craftsmanship of their builder. In a way, these cities are like time capsules, giving us an opportunity to peer into a world that no longer exists, but was once thriving and vibrant beneath the earth. But it's not just the physical remnants of these societies that make them so intriguing. The very idea of people choosing to live beneath the surface, in harmony with the land, invites us to reflect on our own relationship with the earth. In today's world, where urban sprawl and technological advancements seem to dominate, it's easy to forget that once upon a time, people found their most profound connection to the land through a deep understanding of nature and its rhythms. These underground dwellers didn't have the luxury of modern conveniences, but they built lives based on sustainability, cooperation, and ingenuity. In many ways, they were far ahead of their time. As we look at their achievements, we can't help but wonder if we're capable of such creativity and resilience. What could we accomplish if we truly understood and respected the land around us? Their story, although shrouded in mystery, offers valuable lessons for us in the modern world. It reminds us that even in the most extreme conditions, there's potential for survival and thriving if we're willing to adapt and work with what we have. The mystery of the people who lived beneath the earth in Australia may never be fully solved, but the ingenuity and resourcefulness they demonstrated will continue to inspire us. Whether or not their underground societies were driven to extinction by environmental or social factors, we are left with a fascinating glimpse into a unique chapter of history. As more of their cities are discovered and studied, we're reminded that the history beneath our feet is often just as mysterious and full of surprises as the world we see every day.